right, here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of the one and only Crash Course podcast. We like to talk about all things insurance and auto body, and that's good. That's what we've been doing for quite a while. I think we've been doing it for, it's got to be, 4 years now, I think. We started over radio, and then we got into podcasts, right? Everybody who's been following us, the whole story with that. So, that's our thing, right? That's our mantra. We've been saying from the beginning. If you've been following us, what we like to do here with the folks, right? We like to help the folks out. We also support and promote the independently owned auto body industry. But more importantly, I think where we're doing God's work is in helping the folks. Okay? That's what we do here. We give you information, knowledge you need and can use, and advice you can trust. Today, though, we have a special treat. All right? We're always trying to change the format, keep it fresh, bring in new ideas, new themes, and new topics. So we're very excited because we're very fortunate to have had a really special guest here with us today, Brian Cohen. Brian's a very busy man. So, Brian, thank you very much for dedicating a little bit of your very important time to us here. Brian is going to sit in with us today. We're going to talk about some really interesting stuff. Hopefully everybody else out there does too. I think it's interesting because I grew up on Long Island. And what we're going to talk about was really cool because as a kid growing up on Long Island, the subject matter today, which is we're going to talk a little bit about racing and racing history. So that stuff was really cool when I was growing up. And, we were very involved in that stuff on many different levels, both watching it, Daytona 500 and all this other stuff. So it was cool. So, but it kind of died a slow death here on Long Island, but there might be a little light at the end of the tunnel, and Brian's going to talk about that with us. All right. So, with no undue here, because it's very informal. Love podcasts. Gotta love the podcast. Brian was with me. Brian came on as a guest on radio. It's a little regimented. Yeah. This is very laid back. So, Brian, welcome to Crash Course once again.
Well, thank you very much.
It's very good to see you.
It's great to be here.
All right.
I don't know if I'm as busy as you said I am, but whatever.
Oh, well.
We're on about.
Oh, listen, everybody's important in their own right, all right?
Yeah.
And everybody's time is important. So Brian is very involved. He's got his hands in a lot of things. Okay.
That's true.
None the least of which is racing.
Yeah.
Right? In particular, drag racing. Okay. Which I found very interesting when he actually said this to me on the fly one day. Well, we do have a drag strip.
Yeah.
Because you see people driving around all the time with the bumper. It's a drag strip and everything. And then I actually had a friend who was bringing his car to West Hampton Beach, where the drag strip was, and we're going to talk about that.
Right.
And then eventually he had to go to Jersey, and then it got so hectic that he sold the car and just got out of it.
Yep.
So when you had said that to me, I was totally blown away. I'm like, I had no idea that this was going on again. So before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about the history of racing on Long Island, right? It's a rich history. All right, we spoke a little bit about this on the radio show. I did some investigating on my own. The Google thing today really works, right? You don't have to, back in our day, me and Brian are about the same age here. So we went to the old Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
On the right shelf.
I like to say that was our Google of the 60s and the 70s. If you didn't have an encyclopedia, man, you didn't know what the heck was going on.
You got exercise, too. You're sitting in the chair, you read a book, you got to stand up, get the book.
Right.
There you go.
Everybody had them. Everybody had Encyclopedia Britannica. It was either in somebody's bedroom or living room or den, but everybody had Encyclopedia. It's hysterical. Now we have Google, right? But it was interesting to find out, again, having grown up on Long Island, and being a kid, a boy, and I had brothers, we were all into cars and all into racing. And then as we got older, we went to cars. So the history of racing on Long Island is actually very rich, right?
It's incredible. It really is incredible. Right. We started it. Basically Long Island has started different aspects of racing. The Vanderbilt Motor Cup, that was the first paved, what became not a racetrack, it was a first paved toll road that was used as a racetrack. We kind of wonder why.
Right.
Why did Vanderbilt build this thing? I'm beginning to think he didn't want to get far dirty. So he did a paved or more of a paved. It wasn't even more of a structured road.
Now, so our viewers here have a little I guess I don't want to say focus, but a little idea what we're talking about in a modern sense. Are we talking about Motor Parkway?
Yeah, Vanderbilt Motor Parkway.
Okay, so Vanderbilt Motor Parkway.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's plenty of videos out there to Google them. No more.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go move forward over here.
Yes.
You know, if you Google Vanderbilt Motor Parkway,
okay,
and you'll get the history of it. You know, there's a lot of portions of Vanderbilt Motor Parkway that we still drive on. Dix Hill's a big portion that you're driving on.
Okay.
And then there are others that have been turned into some pathways, and there are a few that have been abandoned, and a lot of it's been paved over. But, you know, there's a lot of history.
So Motor Parkway itself, the Motor Parkway that I know and you and I, we grew up with.
Same one.
That's the same one that they actually raced on?
Yeah, that's the same one.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And here's an interesting fact that came up with that, is that they made bridges. Eventually, so it was very dangerous to go watch motorsports racing at that point in time.
I could imagine.
We're talking, I mean, the cars had not only the driver, but they had the mechanic in the car also. There's a reason why there's a mechanic
hysterical.
in the car.
Oh my God.
Some of it was to fix the car when they were racing, and the other was to look backwards and to see if there was anybody about to pass them.
That's hysterical.
No rear view mirrors at that point in time either, right? And there's even a story that goes along with that one. Not a Long Island story, so maybe we'll save it for another. We'll save that one for another day. But so it got to be really dangerous. So they, at some point in time, they made bridges. This way the cars didn't cross over whatever roads there were. And we're talking like 1908 to 1910, I think, was the Vanderbilt Motor Cup. So we're not talking today's traffic here. But still, they did that. So there was a little invention that came out of from auto racing.
Oh, so like overpasses and stuff?
Yeah.
So wait a minute.
It had nothing to do with auto racing.
So I want to frame this really good here for everybody that's listening. So you're saying that these guys race and they would go right through intersections? I guess what were considered intersecting roads?
Yeah, I mean, it was nothing like,
no, I know. There wasn't rush hour traffic.
They go into a different farm there.
Right. Yeah, but still,
you don't want to hit a cow.
No, but they drove right through it, right? I mean,
they drove. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
There was no traffic lights. No, nothing.
That's hysterical.
So, it became a problem.
Yeah.
It became enough of a problem for Vanderbilt to reach into his pocket. Granted, it might be a pretty deep pocket, but to reach into his pocket and then say, hey, we need a bridge.
That's hysterical.
So built the bridge. Who knew?
Yeah.
So that was one of those things that came out of car racing. Go figure.
That's pretty cool. So the whole concept of a bridge or overpasses, I guess we have Vanderbilt to thank for that.
We could.
Yeah.
Even, I said a rear view mirror. So
and the rear view mirror, oh my God.
The rear view mirror story was, again, that time frame.
Right.
Is they were racing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Speedway had been built now. Designated track. No more bridges.
Yeah, right.
Just a lot of bricks. So the guy was trying to figure out how can I make the car go faster. Well, if you have a lighter weight car, it goes quicker with the same thing.
Right.
So how do you drop weights? you kick your mechanic out.
You get rid of a person.
You get rid of a person. So what he did, and he got the idea from something else, and it skips my mind what that something else was. But he put a mirror up in front of the car, in front of him.
So right.
So there you go.
So they probably put it like right on the little windshield, though, right? So he could just look in it.
It looked like it was a huge contraption right in front. I got a feeling it was, and he said it really didn't work that well. It was more of a distraction. But it didn't work that well.
Right.
But the point is that there was another thing. About we're talking about racing and all the rest of that stuff.
Right.
But let's go back to your theme: help the people.
Right.
How does automobile racing, or even racing in general, but how does automobile racing help the people? Well, it created bridges. It created rear view mirrors.
The idea of the overpass on the rear view mirror, that is true.
And eventually created guardrails because it really, if you take a look at auto racing around the world, it was very, very dangerous to be a spectator at these things.
Oh, spectator too?
Well,
oh my gosh. So folks, on top of that, right, if you went to see the race, you were in danger. And if you were the guy in the race, you were in danger. That's hysterical.
And now,
I mean, listen, it was always a dangerous sport. I mean, even you look at, the Indianapolis, the Daytona 500, the stock cars and all that stuff like that. I mean, the Grand Prix, they still hit the wall and they flip over and everything. But I mean, I know what you're saying in a sense that there were no safety guidelines at all.
Nothing like we see.
Right.
Nothing. I was watching.
Did they even wear helmets?
No,
just drive.
It looked like. I mean, it's not funny. People who died and the whole thing, but no, it was like goggles,
and
they had the bench. It depends.
No seatbelt, probably, right?
Bench seats when they were racing those big Hudsons on the beach in Daytona. They took regular cars and they put a number on the side, made it into race cars and whatever other adjustments.
Hysterical.
Big bench seats. Now you got the Hans device in there, so your neck's not going back and forth.
Yeah.
You fit it into the seat, like a jet, like a jet plane, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There was one video, and again, this is in Europe, so we'll get back to the Long Island thing, but it was in Europe. So I was watching the Formula One racing over in that.
That's my racing. I love those cars.
It got to be really dangerous, in the 50s and 60s and stuff like that. A lot of drivers died. So one of the reporters had asked him, are you afraid of dying, because it's so dangerous? And his comment was, nobody's shooting at me. So it must have been a World War II vet. That.
Oh, yes, very good.
Comes back, type A personality, need that adrenaline push. He's like, no one's shooting at me.
Right. I don't have a bomb falling on my head.
Right.
So,
no one's shooting at me.
No one's shooting at me. Well, that puts things in perspective, though, even though you're involved in a dangerous sport, right? I mean, here's a guy who went through World War II, whether he was against the Japs or the Germans. I mean, God only knows what those people went through. So I guess in his world, racing wasn't really that much that dangerous.
He was in control of his own destiny.
Yeah, and he was in control of his right to an extent.
There's a tremendous amount of safety features that we have in today's vehicles that come from that.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And it goes across the board.
Very good point.
And even helping the people, we can even, on the environmental side.
Right.
And, they talk about Formula One's got all kinds of pressure right now about going green. And they're making all kinds of efforts to have these cars.
Oh, I heard that. Like they want to have, turn them into electric cars to race?
Yeah, but I don't know. So NASCAR is looking at electric cars, and you see that face?
Folks, okay? No, hold on. I'm sorry, Brian. Folks, go back a few episodes, okay? The one we did with the EVs, right? Everybody loved that. So you know how I feel about the EVs. All right, when I heard about this, I'm sorry. Electric car, if not for anything else, where's the excitement factor now? We're all going to be driving cars around a racetrack at 200 miles an hour with nothing but the wind?
Let's go back to the help. You want to say with the help to people thing?
Yeah.
So I know NASCAR did look at it, and the reaction from the pure NASCAR fans. Let's go with this one.
Yeah.
The pure NASCAR fans with that. So it's like, there's no way. Because you go there, you want to smell it, you want to hear it, you want to be.
Yeah, of course.
I fully get that. But the
excitement, man, the adrenaline.
But they're all looking at Formula One. It was looking to go greener with the whole thing. So you got the environmentalists, the environmental push with the whole thing. But then again, look at fuel mileage. How much, the more fuel mileage to get out of these cars without dropping your mechanic out the side. But the more.
I mean, what more are you going to drop off a Formula One car? I mean, they're pretty stripped down cars. I mean, Jesus.
Right, but the more efficient they can make those engines run at whatever temperatures, now they have the lesser fuel stops they got to do and everything like that. And then you get the benefit coming out, to the people, as well. So there's a whole bunch of different things. And that's the part of this whole thing that really fascinated me. It wasn't so much as the racing, to become a race car driver and things like that. That's like building a little league park and saying, you're going to be a professional baseball player. Somebody will.
Yeah, somebody exactly. Will. Not all. No. Most of us won't, but somebody will. Exactly.
But then you're going to learn so much more from that little league game, right? The team sport.
Yeah.
You're going to learn about, teamwork. You're going to learn communication skills. You're going to learn what it's like to win and lose.
Right.
If you get involved with running the team a little bit more, you're going to find what are sponsors. All those billboards around the outside. How does that really work?
That's true. I forgot about that.
On the jerseys.
The advertising. So when we talk about racing on Long Island, folks, it is just like when we opened up the show, and I said that I just couldn't believe how involved in racing Long Island was, and we're gonna talk about this a little further down the show here about tying this into like what Brian just said about you build some baseball fields, and then people get involved in baseball, and some of them, very few, very, very, very few, hopefully become real ball players. So in the same sense, when we talk about racing, right now, I grew up in Brentwood. Okay, and I could literally hear Isom Speedway on Saturday nights. It was the coolest thing, especially as a kid.
Sure.
We would sit on our stoop like, we hear the cars, it's so cool. I don't know if my parents thought it was that cool, but I mean, we thought it was really cool. And then as we got older, we would actually go to Isom Speedway. And then I was in Scouts. So we'd have scouting events. We'd go to the Speedway and they'd have different activities going on. It was just a really cool thing. And it was a sport that was all around us. There was a racetrack in Freeport.
Freeport,
there was Islip, Riverhead, of course, which is still with us. And in the Hamptons, there were a number of racetracks in the Hamptons I couldn't believe.
Right, the road courses were out in the Hamptons.
The road courses, West Hampton Beach, of course, the drag strip.
The multiple drag strips.
The multiple drag strips out there. So for me as a kid, we really, I mean, I grew up with three brothers and we just all got, and I had all my friends in the neighborhood all got into cars, right? I mean, come on, you and we grew up in the 60s and the 70s, cars, right? Car became an extension of us.
It did.
Right? Who had the Chevelle, who had the Trans Am, who had the Charger.
Right.
So it was like, a part of your personality, and Islip Speedway became that because as we got older, I had friends that actually, so they had a thing, you probably remember this. They would have a program called Race What You Bring. This was hysterical. I mean,
Keep laughing here. One thing I find is that as we get older,
right? But, when we would do it, you didn't think, but how stupid was it though? And now we would get down, we would race our own cars. Some guys would smack them up. The suspension would break.
Yep.
The
ball bearings would all leak when you go out to the car the next morning. Let's see.
I'm like, these are stock cars, but we would do it. I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
And I don't even think any of us had any concept of insurance or anything. I mean, I think if anything, we had like the basic insurance on the car. So if you whacked the car, you were screwed. You were going to have to get your buddy to fix it or something like that. So
I was one of those idiots.
Well, you were one of them? Yeah, I never did, but a couple of my friends did. My one friend had the Mach 1. Remember the Mustang Mach 1?
Yeah.
What a car. He had the Hurst shifter in there.
So you see, I had the other car.
Sweet.
I had a 74 Capri.
Nice.
4 cylinders of no power.
Hey.
And I went up against the 57 Chevy. So here we are. Tortoise and the hair lined up.
Yeah.
Let's just say he beat me off the line.
Right.
Beat me off the first turn, the second turn, and the third turn.
I'm sure.
I'm still accelerating over here. I don't know what happened, but he saw me in the last turn. He hit the gas or something. He starts fishtailing. I'm still accelerating, by the way. I have no idea what the brake is.
Holy shit.
I passed the guy and win. I was like, man, I was
classic rabbit in the hair. I mean, turtle on the hair. Classic, classic story.
I wonder what
that's
his friend
too funny.
said to him that night.
Oh my God, that's great.
But I got that photo.
My one friend raced his Charger there. He had a 73 or 74 Charger. The other guy had a 77 Mach 1.
Okay, you say it.
77 was red.
I'll go with you. I wasn't there.
Yeah, beautiful car. He put the Hurst shifter and everything.
Okay.
A lot of fun though. And then of course, as you got older, I had one friend who had older relatives. And it was so cool because, you were out in the pits.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. Oh, we're going down Islip Speedway tonight. And James is getting us in the pits. His uncle's going to be down there, So we went to get in the pits. It was a really big thing. So it was really cool, growing up with all that. And it was sad to see all that kind of evaporate and dry up and go away over time. And I don't know how much of that was lack of interest or
look, the economy,
political and economic,
the economy's played a big factor, and world events have played a big factor.
Right.
Look, Vanderbilt, for whatever reason, built the Vanderbilt Motor Parkway. So early 1900s, he did that. Then we got, into the teens, and then so in order to get people racing to be safer, they had woodboard racing. All right.
Yeah, what is it?
So think of modern day, right?
Okay.
You get the bicycles racing that's on a wooden track, big circular track. Make that track a little bit bigger, and they would race motorcycles and they would race cars on the way. So that went on, and there was multiple tracks.
Now we had that here too?
Yeah.
Oh, all over the never knew that. Now, that's one that escaped me. I never knew that.
So you had all of that. So that was, let's call it the 1910s, 20s, stuff like that. Then the Depression came, and nobody paid any attention to the wood anymore. It rotted away. That disappeared.
I see.
Now World War II came about. Now all of a sudden we have airplanes that are a big part. And Long Island, big on the airplane side of things.
That I know, right.
Multiple stories.
Yes.
Came through a little training here.
Yep.
Amelia Earhart.
Public Fairchild.
Multiple.
Yep.
So we had a whole ton
Mitchell Field.
And a whole ton of these different airstrips. Mm-hmm. So what happened after World War II in these little airstrips, some of them turned into raceways.
Oh, okay. Bingo. Folks, you hear that?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Brian's a Savannah. So that is so cool to know. Yeah. Yes, because we had airstrips everywhere. Like I mentioned Mitchell Field, Islip. Apparently Islip had an airport that was very famous. And God knows how many more. I mean, on the East End and everything.
There's tons, right. So these airports.
So they would use the properties there
Yeah, they were there.
Okay.
You know? And maybe that's where the figure eight racing, because we also invented figure eight racing.
Oh, did we?
It's crazy.
I remember that at Brentwood too.
But, you know, maybe I had the crisscross of the two the airstrips. Like, hey, why don't we use it? so
you know what, though? You're probably right, because you always have each runway going in a different, for the wind, right? The wind direction changes. You have to have alternate runways, and it forms that X.
Yeah. So let's see how close we get to it.
Remember figure eight? I remember going to ice and watching that. Like, oh my God.
Still do that stuff over Riverhead.
The Riverhead does.
That made wide world of sports. You know, we became very, very, it was very popular, and we became a national thing, and now there's, you know, figure eight racing all over the place. Another thing that...
Long Island, folks. It was Long Island that kicked that off. That Absolutely. Is so cool.
And then I don't know whether it was the Long Island Expressway or Long Island Railroad or whatever, but, you know, we became so populated over here. All of a sudden, the land became more important
more valuable than the racetrack.
And then that disappeared. So it's tough right now. Riverhead Raceway is the only circle track that remains on Long Island.
Right, and that was protected, right? Because they made it a historic landmark now.
Yeah, it's
so that can never be touched. So, well, never say never, but I mean... That's prime real estate out there.
That's prime
real estate. If it survived, I think we're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I don't want to say never.
Hey, no, you can never say never. So let's touch on that. Now, that's a good segue when you said that, you know, the economics changed, the tracks, you know, dried up and things went away. But how much of that was economics and how much was that a loss of interest? So let's ask Brian where things are at today with racing, all right? And then we're going to also speak a little bit about Skip Barber and their organization. So how's it looking today on Long Island with racing in general?
It's been an eye-opener to me.
Okay.
Roughly 5 years ago, I was asked to do a panel discussion for one of the local radio stations. I did.
Okay.
I had 3 people on. They didn't care what I spoke about. So I took at the Ronkonkoma Hub,
okay,
Station Yards, and MacArthur Airport, and the idea of a drag strip. This is 5 years ago. The idea of a drag strip. And then they got approval for that drag strip, you know, pretty soon afterwards. And then I wasn't invited. The track operator said, hey.
And this was about 5 years ago?
5 years. We're going into our 5th season now with the drag racing. 5 years.
Wow.
So the track operator said, okay, you know, I need help on the microphone. Anybody interested? Now, if you know me, you know me.
Right.
You give me a free mic, I'm in. You know, I truly believe in, again, helping the people. If you have good communication skills, you can go any place.
Yeah, absolutely. If you know how to articulate well, that's always a door opener, right?
So if I'm speaking in schools or whatever, it's like, you know, you got to take these opportunities when they came. So I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't go.
Right.
I didn't know anything about drag racing, time slips, nothing.
That was like me with radio when I first stepped in the radio. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
But you got to do it.
Yeah.
And as with anything.
That's great.
You know, so instead of the fake it till you make it, which I'm not really a fan of, leave it to achieve it.
All right.
You got to get out there and do these things.
Right.
So it was like, okay, you know, count me in. But the eye opener out there was the fact that these folks that were racing the cars were so unbelievably capable of everything. The one scenario that really struck out to me more than anything else was one of the cars come up to the starting line, puts it in gear, starts to do the burnout, the drive shaft pops out the bottom.
Whoops.
Right. 20 minutes later, he's back again. You know, cars all repairs. How do you do that? And that's when that was my aha moment about the technical ability those folks have in welding, electric, obviously automotive, and that kind of thing. And then it took me a little bit more. I get that smart, you know. It took me a little bit more time to go figure out that.
So they fixed this thing right there.
20 minutes later,
they didn't have to take it somewhere. That's incredible.
No. Wow. I've made announcements. Hey, you have a welding machine, and it pops up, and everybody's out there. It's a community. It's a flat out community.
Now let me just stop you there because let's get some context here. Yeah. So who are these people that are showing up? Are they professionals, semi? Are they coming from all over? Are they primarily Long Islanders that just like racing and want to?
I'm going to give you a big yes on that, but we'll certainly narrow it down. All right, so what is drag racing? Let's kind of go with that one. What is drag racing?
Right.
Number one, it's not the top fuel dragsters. It's not the big funny cars that you see. You've got fire belching out the whole thing.
Okay.
There's different rules that we have to follow out in Calverton. All right. One, it is an NHRA sanctioned track. So we're following all of the National Hot Rod Association rules. So there's the fire truck out there. There's the ambulance. There's the barriers to keep the cars in. There's the timing system.
Wow.
There's an announcer, dare I say. And so it's all of that, that's there. There's a 125 mile an hour speed limit on the track.
Okay.
And it's an eighth of a mile, so it's not terrible unless you're a professional race car driver. Then, these cars are going way faster than that on an unregulated, on a racetrack, a drag strip that doesn't have those rules in place.
Okay.
So it's an eighth of a mile, 125 mile speed limit, and the cars have to have mufflers. So to answer your question, who's driving the car out there? You and I could pair up and we can go out there.
Okay.
I did with my car, the street car. So the cars have to have mufflers. 90% of the cars, if not even a little bit more than that, 90% of the cars are street legal, have license plates on the cars.
That's interesting.
Drag racing.
Okay.
Yeah. Occasionally, we'll get a car that shows up that's got the parachute on the back,
Because that's what you see all the YouTube. So the guy I work with's all into this, right? He's a lot younger than me. He'll bring up these YouTube videos with these guys that drag, they go on these drag strips.
Right.
And they got the parachute and they got these turbos in there and these things are taking off. They're doing 100 and something down there. So we're not getting those out there.
You might. Okay. But we're going to require them to put a muffler on the car.
Okay.
So they put a muffler on the car, then they can do that.
Okay.
So those folks that are coming down there with those cars, they have to stay under the 125 mile an hour speed limit, right? And we know because we have a timing system.
Right.
But what they're really focusing on is the launch. And there's another thing now that I've learned. It's the launch.
Okay.
How fast can you get that car to get from the starting line and go? That is the key to the whole thing. So on a quarter mile track, then it's really, it's a balance between speed and, between the first half of the race and or the eighth mile and then the second eighth mile. The first eighth of the mile, it's all about how quick did you leave the starting line, and the launch.
Okay.
And then how fast did you really get that car up to speed, right, in that first 660 feet. The second eighth of a mile, that becomes more top speed stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it's really fascinating.
Yeah. And this is now you're utilizing the old runways out there, right? They used to be the Grumman's properties.
Right.
Those runways are long. Okay. I know this, folks, because I mountain biked out there with me and my wife.
Yeah.
We got stuck on, we called it the runway from hell. It was about 90 degrees that day. We got on this runway and I said to my wife, Jesus, and this thing didn't end.
No.
We're just riding the bike. So you now, was there any modification made to that, or as far as pavement wise, or is it just whatever was there and you're dragging?
Right. I mean, so we have the concrete barriers that are there, and Grumman had the two facilities, one in Bethpage, one in Calverton.
Yes,
the
correct.
Calverton facility is still. Those runways are still the runways, 7,000, 10,000.
Yeah.
Runway. Yeah, and they are long.
They are very long. They used to fly the F-14s out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only modification, so we can't really, because we can't build anything on there.
Okay,
So
I didn't know. I'm just saying. So for the folks that are listening, that might be interested in coming out there. I don't know. I don't know what this looks like. I know what the runways look like because I've been out there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys modified it. Like you see some of these videos where they have the black top and all this other stuff and.
No.
So you're just racing as is on whatever's there.
We are using traction compound right now to help the tires stick to the track.
Okay.
And that's been last year, I think it was the first year we're using traction compound. So that helps.
Nice.
And that'll also bring more of those cars. We'll call them the parachute cars.
Yeah.
Not to get terribly technical. That'll give them a better idea of what they're doing. Because when they go to these other tracks, and we're the only drag strip on Long Island, right?
That's
when they go to these other tracks in Pennsylvania, upstate New York, New Jersey, whatever, they all have the traction. Most of them actually have the traction compound. Some are doing it, some not, but whatever, the traction compound. So when they test the cars out here, because it's mostly test and tune, so they're testing the car, they're tuning the car up, they get a much better realization of what the car can and cannot do. And I can tell you, even the one guy on the video, he's so funny. He said, I had a terrible day out there, but I woke up in the morning, I had breakfast in my house, I drove 45 minutes, I raced the car, it was not a good day racing the car, and I came home for dinner. That was a good day.
Yes. And that's awesome, right? Instead of having, like I said, so I had like I said earlier before we went live here, my buddy was doing that at the old West Hampton. And then absolutely he had to start going to Jersey and it became a drag, no pun intended. And he sold the car, he got rid of everything and he got out of it.
Right. Well, it's costing them. Go back to the help the people. I'll keep.
It's great, but that's what I'm agreeing with you. In other words, now we're bringing that back home here on Long Island. So people that have an interest in that, hopefully we're generating more of an interest, actually have a place to go now. Like you said, I think that's so cool. I drove 40 minutes.
I had no idea the interest was the whole thing. So, the whole people thing. If they have to go to New Jersey with the car and tow the car, they're spending something like $300 to $500 in transportation alone. I'm sure. Gas, fuel, gas expense, time,
aggravation,
tolls, and everything like that. So they're much
traffic.
Here's the greatest part about having a local track: junior dragsters. So these are kids 6 years old and up. Oh. So one of them comes out there and he brings his schoolmates with him. It did not help in ticket sales. I just want to be clear about this thing, because he was 7 years old at the time. Right. So all these kids were under 10. We're not charging anybody.
Yeah, right, exactly. We didn't generate any real income there, but we did.
The ice cream truck did rather well that night.
Yeah, the ice cream guy did well.
But if he travels, with his parents. They're really, really into the whole thing. But if he takes, goes out to New Jersey or upstate New York or whatever, he's not bringing his schoolmates. Right. So now we get a chance to introduce that generation to what's going on here. So basically talking to you when you were a kid about going to Islip or Freeport, what's going on and coming over here and say, hey, what is this whole thing about? Right. And what this whole thing really is about is being able to fix a drive shaft that pops out the bottom, and what kind of careers do you actually qualify for if you're able to do that. And I spoke to one of the big defense contractors here on Long Island, right? And he told me, I asked him, I said, two of the high schools are building a car. I said, if one of those high school students that came, that was good, and they spoke to you about working for the company, and they meet the job description, the minimum level job description over here, which they do based upon what they're looking at over there, would you hire them? Now, you know me, again, I like to chat a little bit. I couldn't get him off the phone. He was absolutely love to see it, the rest of that stuff. So it's not about racing. Right. It's about safe roads. It's about careers. It's about family entertainment. It's about all of those things. Right. Massive stuff. And if you want to talk about us at this age, if we can get more of our students involved in the manufacturing and the automotive and the defense industry, those companies have got employees, and those students are making career money, not job money, and the tax base continues. Yes, and I also want to piggyback on what you just said about, that one thing can be a catalyst for something else, right? Yep. I mean, when you and I were growing up, I was talking about how we had the cars, and you would tinker with cars. We just grew up around cars. I mean, I was doing oil changes and brake jobs and everything in my old man's garage. I had friends that were swinging motors. When we got into high school, we had the engine hoist right in the garage. I mean, those days it was great. Yeah. Pull the engine. I was a little bit more on the mini bike side of life. You were in the okay? Well, I was more on the car side. I mean, we would tear the front of a car off overnight, do a timing chain. Yeah. I mean, it was just everything. But what I mean by a catalyst, like you just said, is so a lot of my friends didn't go to college. Right, college was not that big of a deal yet when I graduated in '80. But guess what? A lot of them got interested in cars. They became mechanics. One went to work for one of the bus companies. Yep. Another guy ended up at one of the dealerships. He went to auto mechanic school. So you're absolutely right. That's a great point. That we can hopefully create a catalyst for people to think outside the box. So let's get them out of this college push button thing and get people back maybe toward trades. Look, I've been out there promoting the whole idea of a motor sports park, right? And I think the racing's great. It's a lot of fun. You bring the family out. It's great family entertainment. Absolutely. It's good for the local economy. Sure. The delis are thrilled. The gas stations, restaurants, the hotels. It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Everybody starts benefiting from that. And it definitely grows on itself. But the thing that I've been speaking about a lot, and I go to the high schools, I've been doing these career days and everything like that. Oh, that's awesome. Is the fact that you build that car, you're meeting the entry-level job descriptions and these things, but you can even go beyond that. Right. One of the high schools, has built a car. They built a car. They built two cars and a boat. They're on their fourth car show, which is coming up. Fourth car show that they've done. Wow. So let's take a look at what these students have learned, right? You're building the car. They've learned about project management. They learned about painting, electric, welding, sponsorships, because a lot of parts got donated. The schools are not throwing in thousands of dollars. I was going to say, who's paying for this? They're coming out of the taxpayer. The race car community is paying for a lot. Yeah, okay. They're all coming out of the woodwork. Wow. Now, let's go beyond it, so you got all of that, right? Yeah. And then also somebody's looking at the money. Maybe we grew an accountant out of the whole thing. sponsorship,
Sure.
all kinds of careers that go along with it. Somebody took video. They take a lot of video, by the way.
Yeah.
So, the video, the photography, the rest of that stuff. So we've got multiple careers already. Now, take a look at the event planning side of it. They've done 4 car shows.
Right.
First car show I went to had 75 cars. The next one had 150 cars. 150 cars.
Now, these cars that they're building, are they state-of-the-art car, like, modern-day cars? Are they a mix of cars? Are they, vintage cars? We got to say vintage, the cars you and I drove. What are we
building race cars?
They're building race cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first car they built, was a rat rod.
Oh.
So you're talking about were they building cars? Yeah, well, they took a bunch of cars and they smashed it.
And they just combined it all together.
And you can have the instructors on to go explain what that really was.
Right.
But they took a number of different cars and they took a number of different pieces of those cars, put it all together, and they come up with a rat rod.
That's
and those
awesome.
are those weird looking cars that you see going down the street.
Right.
What in the world is this thing?
Yeah.
And if you've never seen one before, you got to go to the car shows. Any of the car shows, there's always somebody that shows up with this home built rat rod.
Right.
That is street legal. So all these cars they built were street legal.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So but they're learning all these things, and then to put on the car shows. Now what are they learning? Communication skills, marketing, dealing with bureaucracy.
Right.
It's all on the school property, everything else that goes along with that. So it's everything. It opens the door to so many things.
And now how can people get involved with the drag racing that's going on in Calverton? And by the way, we're going to move on to another topic in it. But
sure.
So how can they get involved if they want to race, if they have a car or they have friends that have cars and they want to get involved in the drag racing? How can they get involved? And what do they have to do? Do they have to qualify, or can they just show up? So give the folks a little idea.
So the only thing
if we're generating any interest here.
So the only thing I raced my car.
Okay.
And I got an old Honda. Nothing like it was grocery getter day. So I took my grocery getter out. My car, and I went down there. So the only thing it needed to be was the battery had to be tied down properly.
Okay.
The tires had to be in good shape. You had to have windows on the car. The windows need to be up when you do the race. So, whatever. If something goes wrong, you don't want to go flying out the door.
Right.
You got to have, a seatbelt.
You got to have a seatbelt.
Right, seatbelt. Then you for regular cars.
We're not racing with Vanderbilt here, okay? No. We actually want to stay in the car.
Right. And, regular seatbelt, and that kind of thing. And I think no hubcaps. Beyond that, and a helmet. You need a real helmet.
Okay.
And if you don't have a helmet, you can rent the helmet out there. So that's fine.
Oh.
So that's it. You just...
And is there a fee? Do we pay an entry fee for the day?
Of course you do, my friend. Somebody's got to pay for the ambulance. The fees.
Nobody rides for free, right?
No. Yeah. But it's not much.
Okay, well, how much is it?
$75.
No, it's $75, folks.
$75 for car and driver.
Okay.
And that whole thing. And you go as many times as you.
Okay, and we have food vendors out there, ice cream trucks. You mentioned the ice cream guys out there.
Of course, the ice cream guy there. He has to come because when he shows up, the sun comes out.
Yeah.
That's it. Absolutely.
And food vendors.
So what it looks like out there, right? You got the concrete barriers for the cars. You got all the lights that start in the Christmas tree.
Okay.
For
the drag race
too. It goes till 9:30 at night.
Woo.
So there is lights too. There's stands and everything's portable. Nothing's built.
Right. It wasn't.
We didn't build anything.
Right. I see.
So the stands are portable. Those concrete barriers are portable.
Okay.
Technically portable. You and I are not pushing them, but they are portable. Porta potties, and they're all clean. And there's tons of them.
All right.
Food trucks, multiple food trucks, and some of the food is really, it's excellent. Changes up a little bit as that goes. Ice cream truck.
Parking, access, free.
Parking is free.
Okay. Parking's free, folks. So $75 and parking's free.
Oh, no, it's $75 to race the car.
Right.
It's a spectator, it's $25.
Okay.
And here's the bonus. They are dare you ask. So on many of the days, you're going to see there's drag racing on one portion. You mentioned the 7,000-foot runway is long.
Yeah.
Long.
No, they are long out there.
So on one portion of that 7,000-foot runway, we have the drag racing. On the other portion of that 7,000-foot runway, depending on the day, it's either drifting, and that's a long story to explain. It's either drifting or go-karts. Or go-kart racing.
We're opening up a whole door here, Brian. A whole other door. Pandora's box has been opened.
This is how I get invited back.
Yeah. All right.
It's at $25 covers everything.
Okay, so if I just want to go watch, it's $25. I park my car. I can hang out there as long as I want.
$25. You bring your own food. Bring your drink if you want. You can do all the rest of that stuff. You have to bring a camera. No, that's my rule.
Yeah, right. You better bring a camera.
You got to say hello to me too.
Yeah.
And you walk around the pit area. You talk to everybody to see what's inside of these cars, and it's amazing. Oh, I forgot to mention, you also need to be a computer specialist because the equipment that's in these cars is just incredible.
Yes. Right, they tune it and everything, right? They remote in and they tune the cars. I've seen that on YouTube. Good old YouTube.
You got to get one of those technical people. Discuss that. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, me either.
I remember a friend of mine. We talk about the brilliance of this thing. Going back to when in those days we were invincible.
Right.
So he's got a little plane, a little 2-seater plane.
Okay.
We're going to Atlantic City. He goes, "Do you want to fly it?" I'm like, "Sure."
You got in this thing with him, and you flew Atlantic City.
We were over the ocean. We were far out, far enough out over there, the rest of that stuff. But the amount of equipment that was in that plane is nothing compared to what's in some of these cars.
Wow.
Now, the grocery
That's a revelation.
The regular street cars are there. Yeah. But then we do have some of the high performance cars and then the race cars. There's very few race cars, with the parachute, no license plate.
Yeah, you're right.
So there's a lot of high performance cars.
Wow.
So a tremendous amount. And they're beautiful. Yeah. I think they spend just as much time polishing these cars as they do on tuning
them up, right?
It's a rolling car show. It's gorgeous. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
That's awesome.
It's out there. So
all right, so let's we're gonna have to tie this up here. So let's let
me just give you the website. So the whole
go ahead.
Yeah. So the whole idea of that, and the guy that runs it, who runs the track, he's been very involved, and it's another conversation too.
Yeah.
Of trying to take racing off the streets and putting it on a track. And that's where the name of the website comes from. It's racetrack, not street.
Okay.
So it's a message in and of itself. You should race on a track. You should not race on the street.
Right.
Racetrack, not street.
So it's racetracknotstreet.com.
.com.
All right, folks. There you go. You have it right there.
Racetrack,
not street.com.
That's it. You want to race on a track, not on a street.
So,
racetrack, not street.
You guys out there, girls, all right, if this is your thing, all right, but you've been messing around on the road, right? We've all seen this on the news about how that's not such a great thing, all right? Brian's letting you know that there is an opportunity for you to continue to do this in a safe and exciting manner, all right? And a lot of spectators.
Yes.
Okay. And you can do that right out of Calverton. And when can they, when this is, is there a season?
Yeah, so we
there's just specific dates?
August through November.
Okay, August through November.
Yeah, August through November. Go to the website.
Saturday, Sunday, one day, both days, no day?
It depends on the weekend. Some of the weekends are going to be Saturday evening and Sunday daytime.
Okay.
Some of them just going to be Saturday. Some, as we get further on, it gets a little bit colder.
All right.
It'll just be
and
Sunday.
If they go to the website, they can see
everything
the dates?
there on the website, including when the go-karts are going to be running and when the drifting cars are going to be running.
And what's the website again?
Racetrack, not street. It's a message.
Racetracknotstreet.com. All right, so go check it out. Let's get the word out there. Let's get more people interested in this. I know there's got to be a lot of young people that are into this. Come on. I know they're not racing the cars that you and I did, right? We're not going to see the big Chevys out there or the Trans Ams.
Yes, you will.
But yeah, okay. I'm coming, man. I'm coming out there. I'm checking this out.
So on the age side of things, we have the junior dragsters, which is fixing up. But on the elderly side of things, it's unbelievable.
Elderly, all right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
One guy goes out there, he's got a full dragster. Okay. He put mufflers on it, so it fit the requirements over there. Your guy was mature. I'll just go in. The guy was mature. And he lights these tires up. So the light goes green, when the to get started. The tires start smoking, and they kept the whole way down.
Oh, no.
He comes back, and when you're in a drag seat, you don't come back sitting in the seat. You come back sitting on top of it. He comes back. He had the biggest smile in the world.
I'm sure.
He's like a kid.
Right.
Like a kid. And I don't think he's, he could do this in his backyard now.
You seen any 74 box Novas out there? Because that's what I drove for a while. Probably. My traction bars and my Hirsch shifter.
Look, on a day we'll get as many as 250 cars. 250 different cars, running out there. It really is incredible.
That's awesome. I love it. I think that's great. And I like the whole, like you said, the whole idea about resurrecting that right here on the island and giving young people, hopefully a lot of young people, I would think a lot of, because as I started to say earlier, you see the YouTube videos and you see, like you're saying, the drifting and all the stuff in the street, and that's not a good idea. Okay.
Drifting and that stuff that you're referring to.
Yeah.
And I don't even on any of my posts, I try not to connect it to. First of all, the drag racing is straight line racing.
Correct.
That's it. Right?
Correct.
That other thing that you're talking about, that's insane. It's wrong. It's not
exactly. Right.
It's not what we do.
Right.
That drifting is designated cars They have harnesses, road pages, fire extinguishers, everything that's inside of that car. It's not what you see in those videos.
Right. But okay, what Brian is saying is if you like to do that, right? If you like drifting, come to Calverton and do it in a safe, controlled environment, and you can still have fun.
Right. They also, they're really strict on this whole thing. Because if you're going to do that, now you got to speak to the guys that are running the drifting program.
Okay.
And make sure that you're qualified to do it.
Okay.
So you're not just showing up in your car and throwing your car around doing the whole thing. Right. They're following a track. They're not doing what you see.
Right. That's
totally different.
That's fine. It's still, there's still an option there. Yeah. Right. Instead of the option.
It definitely is an option.
Absolutely. Right. And the go-kart thing. That's going to be another show because when you threw that out there, I'm like, wait a minute, drifting and go-karts?
I'm only going to come back and do the go-kart show if you and I go out to the track. I'm getting go-karts.
No, I'm not getting in any go-kart. Come on. I skydived for a year, but I ain't getting in a go-kart. Listen, real quick, okay? I had a friend that raced in Riverhead. Yeah. We worked together at V&J Auto Body, and I went out there for I spent the whole summer out there. It was one of the best summers I ever had. Every Saturday night, I couldn't wait to go out there. I was in the pits with him. He was a figure 8 driver. And I just had a blast. It's like all of growing up on Long Island came back to me. And I remember I said, it was Tommy Ferrara was his name. And his uncle was a big shot out there. He ran the track and everything. They were very involved. He retired now, but he was a great racer, great figure 8 racer, Tommy. And what a blast! I mean, they'd have the little cars racing out there and stuff like that. And then they did the monster trucks one night.
Oh yeah!
And then they had the school buses, the Smack Up Derby.
There's all kinds of things going on.
It was phenomenal. I had a great time. So it's a really fun time. It's a great family time, like you said. All right, so folks, go check that out. All right, go to the website, get involved, find out what the scheduling looks like. Okay, what days they're doing what on. All right, and then get involved. So let's we're gonna try and close out the show here by asking Brian. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you feel that this resurrecting of racing here on Long Island, drag racing in particular, and now we mix it up with the drifting and the funny cars, the go-karts. Do you think this will inspire a new generation of people, young people to take a second look at that and say, wow, this is fun, maybe we should get involved in this. And I think you touched on this also, how is this indirectly, hopefully, maybe resurrecting, the trades? I know you did mention that earlier, but
from my
just to close everything out.
My aspect of the whole thing, it really is all about the careers, Okay. And it's a whole lot of fun, the family entertainment and stuff like that. But it's about the careers,
right?
And will it be resurrected? I have a feeling it's one of these hidden things that are here because over the last number of years, I've been introduced to so many people that are professional, semi-professional racers.
Okay.
We got Justin Ashley here on Long Island. He drives a top fuel car.
Wow.
He's, up there on the national stage as that goes.
Cool.
There's a few others that are moving up. Steve Parker's another one that came right out of here. Right out of Long Island too on the professional level side. But I'm finding out that there's more and more people and they love the idea.
Right.
They love the idea of having a local track, right? It'd be great for them. Again, that $300 to $500 they don't have to spend.
Right.
But they want to be home and they want to share this with their family.
Are you finding, demographically speaking, is it a mix or are there more young people, less young people, more old farts like you and I? Or, I'm just saying, I consider myself
maybe it won't come back. I don't know.
I consider myself prehistoric. But seriously,
a few years.
Well, you got to be a couple of years. That's all. Just a couple of years, all right? Yeah. But I'm serious. I like that because, like I said, when we grew up, that was a thing, right? Cars, were just, you didn't even think, you just grew up in it. So, do you see that? Do you see a lot of young people gravitating?
It's everything.
To this? Okay.
It's absolutely everything.
Okay.
We talk about diversity and this is everything.
All right, cool.
Everything. So from the car standpoint,
women, girls, probably girls like.
Oh man,
that wasn't happening when we were growing up, but today that's a thing.
The guys.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
Even on the top fuel side of things, you look at it. But so from a diversity standpoint, right? The go karts, those are kids is 5 and up. The junior drags is 6 and up. the bigger cars.
Okay.
Or, I don't know what the exact lower age group is on that one, but let's say we're into our 70s, maybe even 80s on that kind. I mean, there's a guy that shows up with his car. It's called Agent Orange. He's Vietnam vet. That's why it's called Agent Orange. I mean, this is the original car. It's showing up. A lot of the other cars, I mean, we got a few cars that used to race at Iceland.
Right.
Used to drag race at
That's incredible.
Three-Point Speedway. Drag race. And that went away in the sometime in the 60s, I think.
It had to.
And they have these cars, and they're gorgeous, and they're bringing them out over there. Then you have others that are home-built cars that are just kind of not just thrown together, but that are home-built cars, and they bring them out. They bring them out on trailer. Right. They're not street legal cars, but they're not the big drag. Not the big funny car. So you have that. So income levels. Everything. Right. I could work on a car from home, folks, to a few business owners that are running some cars down there. Like, I don't know what the heck you're thinking. You get a car that's worth $100,000 or more. Right. And you're drag racing with 2 concrete barriers. I don't know.
Deep pockets.
Yeah. Even when I ran my car, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just want to do it. Yeah. And then the guy next to me passed me. I was like, forget that, man. And they hammer down the gas.
I threw the hammer down.
So it's everything. Age group showing up.
Okay.
The driver age group is everything. Kids, best story I can tell you is grannies who love racing. They sit over there. They're by
right.
Grandparents
are out there.
On.
All right.
They go to every town hall meeting to go talk about this. Tons of kids. And the drag racing will attract, I think, a slightly older crowd.
Right.
Just from a stereotype standpoint. The drifting tends to be the 20 to 40-year-old crowd. Right.
Okay.
Go-karts is family. It's flat out family.
Okay.
And by the way, these are go-kart racing. It's not just go-kart stuff.
Right.
They're doing it like maybe 20, 30 miles an hour on the other side, up to this 60 mile an hour with the other carts. And again, age groups all over the place. So it's everything. And the fact that it's local, it means you can bring your family and friends out there. Take that $300. Right. Even if you want to race your car, it's $75 for you to race your car. You still have another $200 to spend. Right. That's a lot of friends you can bring out.
Yeah,
they can pay for their own ice cream. They're on their own there. Right. But, it's there. And
it's a spectator sport, too. So if you just want to go out there for the day and check it out, it's $25 to park the car. And there's an ice cream truck and a food truck.
And you can bring your own food.
And you can bring your own stuff.
And if you got a pickup truck, you can park a little bit further down the track.
There you go.
I forgot what they call it, but anyway, you can pick a pickup truck there. You back it in and you sit in the bed of the truck. You got a heck of a view of everything. There's a guy who shows up with a flatbed truck. Right. I was like, I park myself up. As long as I can still click on the microphone. I go park myself up there.
That's cool.
You got to bring a camera. I will say that.
Yes.
You got to bring a camera.
Yeah, well, a lot of people just use the phone, right, today? I mean, that becomes...
it's good. And everybody's accessible.
Yeah.
You can walk through the pit area whenever you want. Okay. The cars are moving, so you got to pay attention. Right. But you can walk through the pit area, whenever you want. Okay. Any age group, nothing. You don't have to wait for the race.
Yeah, Riverhead was much more restrictive. I had to buy some kind of like a license for the summer, to be able to get in the pits and stuff. So,
yeah, sure. This is
$25. This is a lot. Okay.
Wow. And look, I mean, the overall thing, the career aspect of it, is super important. But you talk about the social side of this thing.
Yes.
Everything else.
Well, that's what I felt at Riverhead when I went back there. It was great. I mean, families were there. Everybody was having a good time. It was just, a lot of fun.
And it's super important, to get people to get that adrenaline rush.
Yes, and it is an adrenaline rush, folks. If you've never been to a race, you got to check it out.
Right. And
what Brian says about
these cars that you built or whatever, or you just want to see, you're buying right out of the dealership, is the other thing. And bring it to the track. You can run the car down the drag strip. Yeah. Do you have to go as fast as you possibly can? No.
Right.
You don't.
Yeah. There's no pressure.
Right.
Right. You can go as fast as you want as long as it's not over 125.
Right. And there's no winners or losers unless you and I pair up again.
Right. Exactly.
And you will lose.
Right.
Just saying. But it's not that. It's not.
This is a rivalry there. Yeah.
Right. It's not a competition.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
so everybody's having fun.
Right. What I was looking at is like, how quick my reaction time was. How quick can I get the car going? That was my thing. Until it got past me. Right. But, so that's that aspect of it. Trying to get people off the street to go racing.
Very good.
There. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that we're looking at with other programs to try to change the culture of the thought process with kids, newer drivers. Yes. It's where they go someplace, where they learn about safe driving skills, and they start to respect each other on the highways, because the highways, as those articles you see, Newsday, dangerous roads.
Yeah, I just had a guy on a motorcycle last night coming up from work. The guy pulled up, he was doing wheelies and all kinds of crazy stuff. And almost hit the woman next to me, and I said something. Next thing you know, this guy's got exploding on me in a motorcycle. So you're absolutely right about that.
I love what you do for a career.
You need to try and, we need to try and bring the temperature down on that.
And look, you got a great career. Appreciate what you do in the collision side of life. But it's like a whole bunch of things. Maybe we have a few less collisions.
Yes. We always put that disclaimer in there. We're not advocating for people to get in accidents. Absolutely.
You're kind of advocating for people to bring stuff to get off the roads.
Absolutely.
Understand how to handle a car.
Sure.
Learning by go-kart. My son did. I put him in a go-kart, early on.
Right.
Just to drive, so I think that's improved. My father took me to take driving lessons. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I do too.
Go and do.
I do too. I mean, again, you and I, we grew up in a different, everybody says, you grew up in a different era. It's a different world. Okay. I guess it was, but it's nice. It's refreshing to see some of this old school stuff that's coming back. I think it is. And like you said, from a standpoint of getting young people to understand that there's an alternative there, right? That you don't just have to, default to college. I got to go to college. No, you actually don't.
Right.
There's other things you can do. You can work with your hands. And today, because of the advancements there, you can work with your brain also and your hands. Not just your hands, it's your brain and your hands. So I like that melding of those two things and trying to generate an interest and say, listen, here's an alternative. You don't got to go into Hocko, but you can go to a trade school. You like cars, you like mechanical stuff. All right. And like you said, and that's also a gateway to what? Maybe defense industry, right? Maybe the aeronautics industry. I mean, I don't know. That's not my thing. I mean, but I can see where those can be pathways to other career ideas. Instead of this thing where, you gotta go to college. Yeah, pick a school. You gotta go there. Take a test, SAT test. So that's cool. I love it. That's excellent. I'm glad that you guys are putting the pedal down on that.
I'll give you one final thought, with this whole thing.
Absolutely. We love final thoughts.
We'll bring back the electric vehicles.
No. We don't want to hear anything electric when it comes to racing.
I got to do it, though.
All right, go ahead.
Or autonomous cars and stuff like that.
Autonomous cars. Come on.
Look, a lot of the schools, in order to get a student's interest, it's got to be something that's hands-on. It's got to be something that's real.
Yes.
A lot of schools now are trying to get, the phones out of kids' hands still, right? What's
Absolutely.
real? So the robotics. You want to take a look at something that's really popular? Is the robotics programs inside of these high schools.
Okay.
There's a lot of students participating in these things. They travel. They do a whole bunch of different stuff.
Wow.
Now, what if we take that, let the robotics people do what they're doing,
right?
But we then make these, dare I say, autonomously driven cars, small cars, like robot-sized cars, like radio control cars, and that be the new club, radio controlled cars, or autonomously driven size radio controlled cars. Bring them to, you don't even need a racetrack, you need a parking lot, for that kind of thing. And the students are learning a lot of the basic things, a lot of the job description skills that you needed for that defense contractor, but doing it with this size vehicle.
Right.
And it's electric. I'll say that again. It's electric. It's also autonomous. And they're also getting the thrill of building something and seeing something race, win or lose, and that kind of thing. And that will be a catalyst. That's going to be a great catalyst for automotive, for manufacturing, for the defense contractors. And look, when you've seen these warehouses, they're run by robots. Cars are being built by robots.
Yeah.
You need to understand how that works. So it's computer skills.
But we don't want to see that on racetracks, though. We want to hear the engines, get the adrenaline rush. We want to feel that pressure in your chest. No autonomous cars on the racetracks, please.
I'm frozen in time right now.
They can learn, but I want to see gas-powered engines on the racetrack all the time. I don't want to hear about it. All right, folks, they're coming. Please, no. Please. All right. So I think we're going to end it there, Brian. That was a very exciting episode. You hit us with quite a bit of revelations there. I appreciate it. Folks, again, listen. So this is Crash Course. Next episode, we'll get back to what we do. But I think this was a real treat. Okay. Brian has been very involved in this on a personal level and a professional level. So, if you have kids, all right, girls, boys, whatever it is, and they may have an interest in this. All right, they have an interest in cars. I know there's a lot of video games out there today, fancy video games, cars, playing cars. Get them off the video games. Get them down to Calverton, all right? August through
November.
August through November. Get them out of the house, off the couch. Get them away from the video games. Bring them into real life. Let them see a real race car. All right, let them see what reality is when it comes to racing cars, drag racing, drifting, go-karts, whatever it is. Get them outside, all right? Get them out there to check this out. I think it's going to inspire a lot of young kids to take a look at this as an option, maybe as a hobby, or like Brian said, it could open up a pathway to another career. Okay, I mean it happened for us. All right, we grew up in a generation where that was just a given. Okay, cars were an extension of who you were. A lot of it was personality driven, all right, a character. A lot of cars back then, a character. But we all tinkered with them. We all grew up with them. And a lot of us, understandably went in that direction. All right. So it's nice to see that we're able to bring that back here on Long Island. I think it's a great thing. All right. Let's get these kids out of the house, off the video games and off the phones, and back outside in the fresh air, and go check out Brian and the drag strip out in Calverton.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much for being here, Brian. I appreciate it. It was a great show.
Absolutely.
All right,
truly
man.
enjoyed
Good to see
it.
you.
Thank you very much.
All right.